Welcome to Relics Radio, your favorite weekly podcast dedicated to the metal detecting and treasure hunting community. Here are your hosts, Ken from Adventures in Dirt and Tony from 5280 Adventures.
Hey, it's DK here from Adventures in Dirt. Welcome to another Relics Radio on the Thursday night here in beautiful Colorado. I tell you what, we're experiencing some great weather. It's cooled down a bit, man. I'm telling you what, but I want to talk to you about it with my co-host. You know him as Mr. 528 Adventures. Tony, how you doing, buddy?
Good morning. What's going on?
Man, oh man, another Thursday. I was looking forward to this all week. I was kind of planning some things out, and couldn't wait for tonight. Tonight's going to be a great show. We're going to talk about some very important topics for our listening audience, for sure. Something I think a lot of people need to hear, right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. A lot of things that people need to hear. We'll kind of go into it a little bit. For sure, we're going to have an awesome guest. That's all I have to say about that. Professional with a lot of information, and it's going to be a very, very good show. If you guys are just checking in with us, stick around for this, because this is we're going to throw out a lot of stuff and have an expert with us to help us out tonight. So stick around for sure. But real quick, before we get started, let's jump over to the live chat. We've got a whole bunch of people already on with us here. If you guys are listening on the replay,
welcome.
Come join us on the live chat. We've got people here. 5:30, half hour ago already, they were checking in. 717 Detector.
Hey, buddy.
Welcome in. Bill Hayes.
How you doing,
Bill's
Bill?
always with us, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Heavy Metal Detectors Kentucky. We were chatting with this guy on Facebook a little bit earlier, huh? Buckle Boy Metal Detecting down in Louisiana.
Buckle Boy? How are you, man?
Yeah.
He was cracking me
Riddles
up.
Relics. I know, he's funny. Who else you got here?
Let me see. Who else we got in there? Oh, Detects South Dakota. Detects SD. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for rolling in. I just want to say welcome to everybody that's joining us tonight in the chat, or even listening on the replay, on their audio podcast replay later. We see your numbers. We see you out there. We appreciate you continuing to listen to us over there on the podcast. Anywhere you can find your podcast, you can find Relics Radio for sure. I still really appreciate people coming over there and joining us and stuff. It's a lot of fun when I get those messages to be like, hey man, we don't catch you on the live, but we catch you on the replay. And that's always great, man. So we're gonna chat a little bit about American Woodland Relics, and I haven't seen him in a while. How you doing, buddy?
Good to have you on here for sure.
Dirt Clod, welcome.
People filing in.
Why don't you talk a little bit about why we decided to do this particular show?
Yeah, we'll kick this off. We're not going to get into a lot of details, and I'm searching for words and ideas here without we're trying to be respectful. Ken and I had a personal situation come to us this past weekend. Like I said, we're not going to get into many details about it, but based on that situation, we really felt that this topic was something that needs to be addressed. We haven't seen a lot of videos out there for detectorists, treasure hunters, maybe not even hunting, hiking, camping type of things. This all kind of ties together with being out remotely, which is what we do, right? We find these incredible sites and we want to get out there. Sometimes we're put in some difficult situations, and we felt like this would be something that would needs to be talked about, needs to be brought to the attention. It's a heart to heart, honestly, because this kind of hits home for us for sure. So we just want everybody to be safe, and this really was a topic we really wanted to do. We've been wanting to do it for a while, but it kind of pushed us over to really organize this tonight and bring this to you guys with a lot of topics, a lot of information, an incredible guest. So that's kind of how we've got to this point tonight. So.
Yeah, thanks. Well put. It's always hard to search for those words, when you're trying to be respectful of certain things, and you kind of want to let people in on exactly why we decided to do this show. You're right. We've been wanting to do this show for a while. I know we're going to talk about it later, but we had Jeff Barber on. He talked about a lot about staying healthy, and that was a great show. If you happen to miss it, I encourage you to go back and listen to that podcast with Jeff Barber, Dr. Jeff Barber. That was a really great show. But yeah, I mean, something we don't think about, right? We usually grab our metal detectors and go running out the door. Just go, man. And hey, where are we going? Okay, where's that at? It's in the middle of a field. Okay, let's go. And if you're like me, a lot of times I'm in the middle of the field thinking, I didn't grab any water. It's back in my car. I forgot it or something. And, whether you're doing that or whether you're like over in England, like Tony and I have been, and you're doing these large marathons where you're dark to dark out in the field, just trudging along, going against weather, just pushing yourself to the very physical limit. Because you want to take advantage of that, right? When you're over in England, you don't want to rest even for a minute, but it takes its toll on you. It takes its toll on you physically, even mentally, like being away from home and, and getting a little bit of homesickness and stuff. Like a lot of stuff can affect us when we're out there. And we're going to talk about a lot of that tonight for sure.
Yep. Real quick, let's get into who's actually sponsoring the show tonight. Tonight we've got Nick's Custom Laser Engraving. You guys got to reach out to Nick. Hats. I got some stuff here. We've got coasters. I've got keychains. Everything is custom from Nick. He's over on Facebook. I've got the link down in the description of this particular show. If you guys are looking for custom things for your logo for anything or sayings, cutting boards, all that kind of stuff, reach out to Nick. I got a message from Nick this last week who said, guess what? Supporters of Relics Radio are actually now supporting him. He got some orders from our show last week. So, thanks guys for supporting the people that support us.
That's right. Real quick before we get to our guests, have you been out? Have you found anything? Let's talk about the good shiny stuff. No little trinkets. No, the stuff. No, nothing like that.
Nothing. No. We're going out this weekend though. We're actually going out with an archaeologist.
We are. You didn't find
Grandma's brooch. Grandma's brooch.
I did not.
You didn't find Grandma's brooch. Okay.
Not this time. Maybe this weekend.
Yeah, we are. We're going out this weekend, do some good things.
I bet we'll find something
for history and for the community, and working with an archaeologist, and possibly find stuff that may tell a little bit more history than what's unknown right now. So
it's gonna be fun. Good weather, and always a good time to get out and help people. Right? I mean, we're helping the state. We're helping the history books, and we're gonna go find some good stuff.
And it's very topical with our show theme tonight because we've got quite a hike in front of us, and it's going to be strenuous. And a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to have to put into practice ourselves. I know you and I have already kind of been talking about preparing and what we're taking with us. And kind of the area we're going in is quite remote, and you got to pack everything in. So it's not like, I got to run back to the car and get my water. It's not going to happen on this one. So.
No shade, no cover. Got to pack everything in, pack everything out. So, this show's we're gonna take a lot of notes here. Reference back to it quite a bit.
And as we're talking tonight with our guests and amongst each other in the chat, make sure you're writing down any close calls you've had, things that good tips, because people go back and watch this video, for months and years to come, and they see the topic, they come back and watch it, and they can see the chat when they rewatch the videos. So make sure you're throwing your tips and your things to look out for, and your tips to kind of keep people healthy out there. And as we bring up topics, any experiences you have, we'd love to go back and read them later. Any questions, make sure you throw them in there. We'll pull them up for either our guests or for Tony and I, and it should be a great show.
Yeah. You ready? You want to kick this off? You ready?
Yeah, let's go. Let's bring in our guests.
All right.
Hi, John.
Hello. How are you two?
Yeah, great. Well, welcome. This is John Wilson. I appreciate you coming on and joining us here on Relics Radio.
Thanks for having me join you. This is a great educational opportunity for us to spread the word on how to be safe when you're out in the backcountry.
Perfect.
There we go.
You look like you're out in the backcountry now. It's beautiful there.
I'm in Colorado, so most of the places in Colorado are beautiful, right? There's always green somewhere, right?
That's it. Perfect.
That's it. Dawn, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and who you work for.
Well, I'm a volunteer with Alpine Rescue Team. We are a nonprofit mountain search and rescue team just west of Denver. In Colorado, the county sheriffs are in charge of search and rescue services. And so in Colorado, we operate under the sheriff. Alpine Rescue Team, we operate under 3 sheriffs, actually. We're pretty unique. We work in Jefferson County, Gilpin County, and Clear Creek County. So if you go west of Denver, up in the mountains, a lot of that is our territory. So we are, 75 volunteers that respond whenever we can. We don't charge for any searches or rescues that we perform, whether it's for 3 minutes or 3 days.
It's amazing.
And I've been a member for 17 years.
Wow.
It's a fantastic organization. And what I like to say is, it's a great way to give back to society. Sometimes we have great days and sometimes we have unfortunate days with what we do.
Right. Well, amazing. First, thank you. Thank you for your community service and your volunteering spirit. What got you into it? Like, were you a forest ranger or, outdoors person or?
Well, I'm an outdoors person. My second life, I would be a ranger. That's for sure. I said, if I never had kids, I think I'd be a ranger and just travel around. It sounds fantastic. Most of our team members, all of our team members are outdoorsy type people. We have people who have climbed the 7 summits to people who just like to hike and backpack. And we train everyone who joins our team. We train them the basics, the basic medical, the basic rock climbing, the basic communications, basic safety, whatever it may be. And then everyone has their specialties as we excel in those areas. One of my specialties is communication. That's why I'm here today.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
There you go.
We appreciate your time, taking time out of your day to come join a bunch of metal detectorists here on this podcast.
I think this is a fantastic audience to spread education. We call our educational department PSAR, Preventative Search and Rescue. Our goal, obviously, of any search and rescue team is to not have any business, right? That everyone is educated enough to never have an accident, but that's not possible. Even our team members, we twist ankles and things like that because things just happen sometimes. You have a bad day in the mountains, and that's what we're here for, is to help you out.
Excellent. It's one of those things where, we're glad you're there, but
we hope to never see you.
Exactly.
That is our tagline. Nice to meet you. Hope to never see you in the backcountry unless you're helping us out. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Have you ever had an experience, Tony, where you were lost or feared you would be lost? I did.
Yes.
Have you?
Yes, absolutely.
What happened?
I was up at what's that? St. Mary's Glacier.
Very popular place. Yeah.
70. Yeah. And I went, instead of taking the trail up to the lake right there, I decided to go off to the left-hand side and go up around to the top where the glacier is. And there's not a trail that goes up there per se. And so I felt like I really got lost. You're trying to kind of bushwhack your way up. And all of a sudden, I kind of got myself going in the right spot. And it can be unnerving. I just kept telling myself, relax, because you start to get scared. There's a lot of things your body, how you react to you being lost per se. One of the things is people tend to go downhill when they feel that they're getting lost, even though uphill was where they had parked at, where they had started from. For some reason, our brains just start saying, well, go downhill. That's the sort of the safe area is, and you end up getting further away from where you are.
And it's easier to go downhill, right?
Oh, absolutely it is, especially up here in Colorado.
Yeah. We have certain areas that we respond to when someone's lost. We send people from the top where they started, and we send people down below where we think they're going to end up, which most of the time they do end up because of that reason. The psychology of searching for a lost person is a thing. Actually, we have a team training on that coming up this month of the psychology of a lost person, because there is science with it. For example, where you park your car and you hike, especially for suicidal individuals, where they park and where it's pointing is probably the direction they went a lot of the time. So there is psychology behind a lot of it. And what we do. So
that's interesting.
That's why we train every week and every other weekend to learn all these tips to make lives easier for us, but also to help save lives when we're out in the backcountry. But I'm assuming you figured your way out of St. Mary's and got yourself out of that situation.
So what actually happened was I ended up at the top, and I was like, okay. well, I'm just actually going to sled or slide down the glacier. I was actually snowshoeing.
Yeah.
And I started going down, and I went and lost control. And yeah, it was not a
Were you
good
okay?
day. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't, dig in a snowshoe, blow out my knees,
So we
pop
almost
hips
met you
out.
at some point in time, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Because St. Mary's is very well known for people doing exactly that. They get lost.
I'm
They
not
slide
unique,
down,
huh?
glissade down, and break a leg. And I will put a shout out to Flight for Life Colorado, because there's some great landing zones there. And we've had people's lives saved because they were able to fly in people with broken femurs, which when you break your femur, which is that bone on your upper leg and your thigh, you could pierce some blood vessels and bleed out. So
Sure.
Yeah, that's a very popular area. So I don't know if that helps you to feel better that you're not special, but I'm glad we didn't meet on the
Thanks, I
mountain.
appreciate it.
Maybe we would have been
rewind
doing
that
this
one.
interview earlier.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Right?
short. Yeah, it's
Well,
gonna be a reel somewhere.
You got to remember, this was 25, 30 years ago when I was, a lot
There were no cell
younger and a
phones.
lot dumber.
Yeah.
That too. Yeah.
Hey,
So,
you said it, not me.
I'm all good with that.
This is recorded, Don. We've got it. We've got it on tape.
Perfect.
Well,
Women
cool.
do get lost and hurt in the backcountry as well, but the 20-year-old male has
Sure.
their own category.
Right.
I just got this, no problem. But also
Yeah.
the 40 to 50-year-old man who's like, I did this in my 20s, I got this, and you're not 20 anymore. So,
Right.
but the
Right.
women do it as well.
True.
Yes.
Nice.
Well, what do you say? How would you start this? So we're talking about, a bunch of metal detectorists, either whether you're going out into a field or a forest or some woods or even the mountains to go look for sort of relics of what used to be. Like how would you recommend people adequately prepare to go into some of these backcountry areas or areas where they've never been before? You can actually apply that to probably more than just, mountainous areas.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that?
I mean, the biggest thing, you said it right there, is how to prepare. You need to be prepared and not just go on the seat of your pants, right? Like you mentioned, you need to talk about what you're going to do before your weekend adventure. So what do you need weather-wise? What's the weather look like where you're going to be, not where you are now? So like if you're in Denver and you're going to Jones Pass or, up by Empire, weather's gonna be very different a couple thousand feet up in a new ecosystem. If you're going to the Western Slope, it's very different from over here by Denver metro area. So be prepared of where you're going. UK, you mentioned the UK. Of where you're going, what the weather's like, and what kind of gear you should have for that, and make sure you're prepared for that. And are you able to carry that amount of gear if you are backpacking or hiking for a long time? Like test it out beforehand. Fill that backpack, weigh it, walk around with it. On a side note, if you are backpacking, you shouldn't probably put more than 20% of your body weight on you at any time. Usually not more than 40 pounds, no matter how big you are.
Wow.
Just a little side note to protect your back, as we're all not young puppies anymore.
Wow.
But be prepared. Be prepared for the weather, and be prepared to carry that gear with you to be prepared for that weather. And that could be a shelter as well, and which also could just be like a light tarp, or even like one of those big orange CDOT trash bags. You cut a hole in the top, and that's a great shelter. That's a great poncho. And you can also buy shelters as well that can be very light and I tell you from experience, can be very beneficial against wind, rain, or snow.
Wow. Also,
there's the psyche involved too, of being warm and being dry. That stress you talked about earlier, if you are lost or injured, if you're waiting for us, like even if we're coming in, it could take us an hour or two, depending where you are. So that psychology of being comfortable and protecting yourself and from getting hypothermia as well. Another thing is, on that note, bring a flashlight or headlamp. Even if you're leaving at 5 a.m, you think you'll be done at 11. How expensive are they? How light are they, right? And that could help you walk out if you get lost in the dark. That helps you from calling us. That helps you if you are lost and we're coming, we can see your light. Don't you rely on your cell phone light. Bring a flashlight or a headlamp that you can carry and have extra batteries as well. That also gives you, again, that I'm lost, I'm scared, I'm hurt. I have a light. I can see things. I'm not scared of mountain lions or things like that as well. So
yeah,
mentally,
that's got to help too. You know what I mean? Like
light
changes everything.
Yeah. When you can't see your own foot and you're sitting in the dark by yourself and you're scared, especially if you're injured, that's a really scary situation for anybody. And so again, that comfort, We do tout the 10 essentials, right? Which shelter and light are some of those. And not everyone follows those. So just think about what is on that list is important. Food and water, hopefully we all think about that right away, right? Bring water, maybe bring water tablets if you're going to be gone a long time and there's a water source. So you're not carrying it all, but if you in an emergency situation, you can filter that water. And then food. I mean, there's so many commercial snacks you can buy now with energy and such. There's Cliff Bars and all those special ones that I do have in my rescue pack. But I also have a pack of M&Ms and things that are enjoyable, again, for that psyche of I'm cold, I'm tired, M&Ms make me happy. Do they have the most protein? Who cares? They're M&Ms. They make me happy.
They don't take up much
give me some
space.
sugar. Yeah. So
that's great.
Those are great tips.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
It's already been the best show. Perfect. Thank you, Don. Thank you so much.
You bet.
One of the things that I think I ran into this past weekend, was cell phone coverage. We rely so much on a cell phone. Any suggestions on that?
How much time do we have? That is a hot topic. And I will say, okay, I'm going to try to keep this concise and short. Cell phones are amazing. And we have so much better coverage than we had just 5 or 10 years ago. And they can help. On a side note, if you are lost or injured and you do need to call 911, a lot of people don't know you can text 911. And that will go a lot quicker. Not a lot quicker. I'm sorry. It will use less battery. And also you'll text information that will be reliable versus if you make a phone call that's not very clear, it's hard to understand what you're saying. If you're like, we are lost, this is how many people are here, give us the information before, because of course everyone's battery is almost dead when they call 911. So give that pertinent information so we know where you are, what's the situation, what resources we need to bring, so we can respond quickly and then start figuring out more details as we go. So cell phones can be amazing. However, people rely too much on them. So it's your GPS, it's your Instagram photo taking opportunity. It's hopefully you have like a Caltopo or a Gaia on there or some kind of mapping system on there for doing the adventures that you all do. And you know how to use it, not just put on there. It's set up. You've played with it before you actually need to use it.
Good point.
You have there's a flashlight on there. So when you have a cell phone, have a backup battery system as well, especially if you know you are going to be running all these programs on there as well. Ideally, it's great to have your cell phone, but also have maybe a satellite messenger, right? If you're going to go in the boonies where you guys go and you'll be out for a while, one person has maybe a Zoleo or Garmin to have that emergency situation as well. And I know that's costly, right? Hopefully you guys find great coins that give you some money and you can pay for those things, right? Is the object, but it can save your life.
This guy does.
I'll go with you then. So using your cell phone, as a spokesperson for the team, it's a hard balance, right? Because it can save your life. It can be very helpful, but people rely too much on it. People don't bring a map and compass and know how to use them anymore. And that's what's going to help you. They don't look around and be like, hey, where's the sunset? People don't know the sun is in the east and, sets in the west anymore. And so I think it's also made us dumber as well in some ways.
She just called us dumb.
I didn't say that. The general worldly us.
It's so funny because not funny, but when I hear you talk, it's very common sense. You know what I mean? Like, I think as detectorists, a lot of times we're looking so much forward. We're so passionate and geeky about this thing we do that we just go. We don't tend to plan and think of worst case. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen here? Because if we did, then we'd be pretty prepared, like for the things you're saying. Which
I will tell you, you're not in a group on your own, though. You know who we often are searching for? I've been on, I think, 2 in my years for metal detectors that are lost because you put your head down, you're so super focused, which is a fun hobby. Mushroom hunters is very common, especially in the Mount Blue Sky area. Right? Great mushrooms there. I don't know enough about them to speak, but I know there's great mushrooms there. And probably about every year on average, we have 1 or 2 because they have a bucket, they have their head down and they're focused going from one to the other. And next thing you look up, and I will tell you, Some of them, their friends or family will say, oh, they were right here. They'll just be in this area. And they'll be 5 or 7 miles away.
Yeah.
And they don't want to give up that bucket of mushrooms. So we always are prepared to carry a bucket of mushrooms if we can. And
hopefully they give you some for rescuing them.
Most of us don't know how to cook them, but they have been very, we just actually had this situation about a month ago, and they gave us a trinket of a token of appreciation. They are appreciative because they just hyper focus, just like I'm sure you all do. And it's exciting. And you're like, where the heck am I? When you finally look up to stretch your back and like, oh gosh. So that's where a Gaia or GPS locators help to track yourself. On that note, on the big picture of things, we're talking about you as individuals, maybe as yourself or as a group, but there's other people that are not with you that can help out as well. And I apologize, I'm by a road.
I thought that
so
might be
sharing
a bear.
that location. So like no, it's not
run,
a bear.
Don, run.
I'm not that far.
run, Don.
Bear spray, right? Like, yeah, bear spray. But
there
no,
you go.
on a serious note, if you are going somewhere, if you have like Caltopo is something we use a lot on our team, there is a share location. So we can share it. We use it as a team base, but as an individual, is there that accessibility on whatever app you're using to share your location with someone who is going to be in cell service and can be watching for you and see where you're at. If you don't have that technology, which is fine, we have a lot of technology. Some people are more naturalists and they just want to do their own thing. One of my best friends from Montana backpacks, and he just goes in the woods for days on end. And I had to educate him years ago of like, hey, does your wife know that you're going to check in every night? No, I just check in whenever. So sorry if he watches this, but educate him like, hey, what if a grizzly bear attacks you and she doesn't know about it for 5 days? So sharing not only that information of where you're going to be, but when to call 911 if you don't check in. If you don't check in, say, when I go backpacking, if I don't check in before midnight, you call 911. I'm going to check in before I go to bed, which backpacking is usually pretty early. And if I don't call in, I know you're going to call 911. So make sure you rely on somebody who is brave enough to do that. I know which sister is brave enough to do that and which sister will not call 911. Too embarrassing, right? So have someone reliable who is watching out for you. Like, hey, they didn't call in by 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time, I'm going to call 911. And then we come out. Now, people are embarrassed. Like, oh gosh, what if they're okay? What if they're just late? We don't care. We're volunteers. This is what we love to do, is to help out. If we drive and we get there at the trailhead and you walk out, you just were later than you thought, we turn around and go home, right? That's great. If you are lost and no one's calling in for you and it's like 12 hours later, now you could be hypothermic, you could be really lost, you could be injured, and it makes it harder for us. Now it's dark, it's harder to find you in the dark. So don't hesitate on calling 911 for an emergency like this, because that's what we're here for. And on that side note, and I'll stop talking in a second here, is give yourself plenty of time. If you think it's going to take you 6 hours, say like 10 hours of when that person should call and be worried about you.
Yeah, and I think this last weekend, the situation was, the wife expected him to be available around noon. Didn't really expect him to be there at noon, but 3 o'clock was kind of their cutoff. At 5 o'clock, she ended up calling the sheriff's office. So
and she did the right thing.
She absolutely did the right thing within that time period. Before it got dark up there and things like that. So, hats off to her for doing what she's supposed to have done. And I also wanted to mention, people on this channel, on all of our followers, a lot of detectors, we use Gaia, we use OnX. So a lot of our research is done through mapping. So that's one side where a lot of us have an advantage over, other people that may not understand how to use Gaia. So, I mean, that's a positive for us for sure. And then I also did want to mention real quick, this is a Crave Pro, a Crave Plus Pro. This is by far the best battery pack that I've ever had off of Amazon. 2 USB.
That's saying a lot, because you've had a lot of them.
I have quite a few. This thing is phenomenal. I did, before the show, I left a link in the description if you guys are interested in this, because I am personally attesting this thing is phenomenal. I keep it with me for not only just charging my cell phone, but camera equipment, things like that. GoPros that go out, I'm always thinking about that. But that cell phone that's dying. If you are lost, man, that thing, this is going to be invaluable, and it fits right in your pocket. It's like the size of a cell phone. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so you brought up a good point, Don, because I think it happens a lot. So if you were to advise our listening audience to advise their family members as to when to call, when to make that call, is that just an individual decision between you and your family as to, hey, if I don't make it back 4 hours, because I'll tell you, our friend this weekend and most of us, we put our head down and it's like, I would tell my wife, hey, I'll be back. I'm going to leave at 3. I should be back by 4. We're not too far out. And I'll all of a sudden look down my watch and it'll be 5. Like, look, guys, I got to go. I don't detect on my own very often, but I got to go. And then I'm always calling my wife and be like, honey, I'm sorry. I know I told you this and that. So is there a guideline you have heard from sheriff's departments or whatever as a guideline, or is it really?
There's no official guideline, right? And each area and each individual is different. So one suggestion, if you do have a great system, is put a timer on. Like, oh goodness, this is when I'm supposed to be leaving, so they don't call 911 on me. Again, give yourself plenty of space just in case, like, okay, you get altitude sickness if you're climbing a 14er or whatever you may be doing, and it stalls you down a little bit. So give yourself a few hours, if it's going to be an all-day thing, of comfort. Your phone dies, so you can't call them that you're late. So that cushion is helpful. Make sure the plan is clear, though, because some people are like, oh, I'll be back, and then they don't come back, and then the individual who's reporting them in is like, I think they said this, I think they said they're going there. Make it clear. Maybe even text it. So like, hey, this is where I'm going, so that's written down. Because the other thing too is it's often that we have, whether it's family or spouses, where one is the outdoors person, one is, I only go outdoors with them. And so then they're like, I think this is what they said, Clear Creek. No, was it Cold Creek? And so it's not clear where they actually are. So make it clear by writing it down, or if there's a map. Also, what you can do, if you don't have someone looking out for you necessarily, but even if you do, leave something in your car, not so that everyone can see it, but like on the dash upside down, or on the seat where it says like, this is where I was going, this is the time I left, this is when I'm gonna be back. Because if you are missing for an extended period of time, if we do access, the sheriff's office, if they do access your car because we are worried, then we have that information. It's like, wait, they were gonna be gone. They said they weren't gonna be gone that long, and here it is like a day later or something. We also will look in the car, like, okay, their hiking boots are in the car. How did they hike without hiking boots? Like, what happened? Whatever it may be. So we do snoop around cars. That's the first thing we look for, is like, is the car at the trailhead where they said they're going to be, before we send out all the members. And if it is, then that's when we start looking. And this weekend, that exactly, right? We found the car and we hiked around. And, there was rain, so we had to worry about that. And it was possibly going to turn to snow. It was going to be cold that night. So to come back to the original question, her calling it in right away was very beneficial, because that is a case where we're concerned. The weather's turning. This person was supposed to be back hours ago. Where are they? And let's get people out in the field ASAP. So being clear, and I'm glad that you are suggesting that you already do that. I've mentioned where you're going to be.
Yeah.
My very first find on the team, the person was embarrassed. Myself and another member found him, and he was so mad because he'd heard along the way that his wife had called us out. And he's like, I know, I said I was coming back today, not yesterday. So there was a very heated conversation at the trailhead. He was very mad at her on the phone of like, this is embarrassing. So make it clear.
Right.
Well, better safe than sorry, honestly. I'm sure, I'd much rather that happen than it's something bad. We've had a couple comments coming here. I just wanted to bring up real quick. And this first one is something that I do also. E-Tector says, I always set my phone for location sharing on Google Maps to share with my wife when I go out on my adventure. I do that with my wife as well. I do a lot of waterfowl hunting, small game hunting, that kind of thing. I do the same thing with that, because that's more remote. And honestly, my wife, and I know Ken's probably the same way, they don't know when we say we're going to so-and-so to go metal detect, they don't know what we're talking about, honestly.
No.
So
it's like the Charlie Brown. It's like,
write it down.
Yeah. Riddles Relics also said, we use Life 360 and my wife can track my location.
Nice.
So
great.
And with all these too, like Have you ever come home and seen what it looks like from their perspective afterwards? That would be beneficial if you've never done that before. Like, hey, what is your wife or a significant other? What are they seeing versus what you're putting out?
Right.
If you've never done that, you should check it out and just see like, oh, okay,
Good
that's
point.
really interesting. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, the way that I've thought about it, and my wife and I, we share our locations all the time. It doesn't matter whether I'm going out or not. But, in my mind of it is, it's not that she's checking up on me, she's stalking me, she's wanting to know if I'm chasing, women are at the bar, which I'm with Ken and we're metal detecting. It's just there's a trust factor there, but it's 100% about safety, and that's all that it is. We discussed that with our kids as well. Is our kids also share their locations because you just never know, And I have a law enforcement background, and I have a lot of experience in terms of bad experiences, and so maybe I'm overburdened or overly conscious about these kind of things. But to me, again, I'd rather be safe than sorry. And to be honest, all those other things that you're worrying about, no, that has nothing to do with it. I want to make sure you're safe. That's all I'm concerned about.
Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yes.
You have it so that way if something does happen, then you're prepared. And otherwise you're like, oh, everything's fine. It doesn't hurt you to share location, right? It's not affecting anybody. But then when you need it, it's there. And you guys have a system in place, which is great. So when the emergency does happen, which hopefully never does, unless you go up St. Mary's again and get lost, then you're set.
At least you did that on a...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. So at least you did that on a big sort of area, Tony. I got lost at White Ranch open space.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah, felt ridiculous after that. But I'd rather be lost on a glacier somewhere, out in the wilderness.
Right. Backcountry. Yeah. I mean,
Lost
it's a hike
is
just
lost,
to get up to the glacier. So
Right.
It's easy to get turned around. And one thing, a lot of people don't think about, and I'm teaching one of my sons right now, I just took him backpacking for this first time in summer, is to turn around when you're on a trail. We go forward and we don't turn around, and what it looks like and I learned that from caving many years ago. Like, you turn around to see what it looks like, because then it's a little bit more familiar instead of keep looking forward. I mean, you could, of course, do flagging and people do cairns and things like that, but just do a 360, get a view, and see if things look familiar. And then if you're with other people, especially kids, right, or with your friends, like, mention things like, oh, that tree looks kind of like blah, blah, blah. And then that's what you're going to remember. I'm like, hey, I remember that tree.
Good tip.
And if you discuss it, especially with kids or people not familiar, and that's the one thing, is try not to split up, right? If you are split up, and this is more kid oriented, but it works for adults too. And there's a whole program called Hug a Tree. And so if you get lost, don't just keep wandering around, because then we're looking for you all over the place and we're just keep missing you, right? So stay put if you in a safe area, not in the bottom of a valley, not by a river where the water is so loud you can't hear people calling or whistling for you, but not on top of, a hill when there's a lightning storm or wind coming through. Like, find a safe spot and try to stay put. So then we can actually find you. And because what we do is again, our team uses CalTopo, and that's just what we use. And we can see with different colors where everyone's been. And when we are searching for someone, we can see what has been searched already. And be like, oh gosh, there's an empty spot right there. Let's send in a team or send in dogs in that area because we missed that spot. So that's where technology really comes in play. Old school days, it used to actually be a map, and they would kind of cover that up as well. And so if you're moving around, that doesn't help us at all, because we've covered that whole area, but now you've moved over there where we looked yesterday or a few hours ago.
Yeah. I was in the command post, and I did see the map, and having everybody's GPS and lines and things like that. It really brings that whole thing to focus here, and you go, oh my gosh, we haven't been in this area. Let's send the dogs through there first. Now we'll send some people for physical, eyes on, and it really draws an incredible picture. And absolutely, if they searched an area to the east, great, and you're still moving and you back behind the searchers, and now they're going to the west side, you've defeated the purpose of being lost and people looking for you. So hunker down.
And I can understand too if you don't know people are looking for you. Sometimes people don't know we're looking for you. So that's another thing too, is a whistle is an easy thing to put on your pack. They're so easy. Just throw them on your keychain, a keychain on every backpack you have or jacket you normally wear, or your detector, because that will carry louder than your voice, especially if you're hoarse or hurt. A whistle is louder. And then also if you hear what sounds like a whistle, when we we will do a traction. So we'll call out a name. And then we wait for a good 10, 20 seconds with no movement. Don't wrestle your jack or anything. And we're listening. Because by the time it carries and you identify, like, was that my name? Was it what? And you call back. So we'll do that usually in a set of 3. Because if you're lost and you don't know we're looking for you, even if you do, and you're like, was that my name? Was it?
Right.
So, and then you're paying attention. So think about that too, of that dynamics of what you're putting out there. And if you can whistle, that can a good whistle can carry a lot further. So, and which, by the way, thank you for all of your help this weekend. It's really helpful. As you saw, it's not just one team. We had multiple search and rescue teams. We had you guys helping out. We had the sheriff's department. It really does take a village sometimes to work together and work together really well to succeed in our goal.
Here's a question for you, and it just came to mind because of our experience that we had this weekend. How do you get over the feeling that you're not doing enough? You know what I mean? Tony and I had that conversation a lot. We're like, yeah.
For you guys, I mean, as a rescuer, that first night I was there, the first night when it's just, okay, still gathering information. And yeah, did I walk far enough on my designated area? Should I have walked 10 feet further? Wow. Should I have looked under here? Should I have called out in this location versus that location? That is going through a rescuer's mind as well. And as what we call the subject, the individual who's lost, their family, their friends, their peers, it is a hopeless feeling, isn't it? Of like, what can I be doing? And it's a difficult one to get through. The psychology of doing this, we're volunteers, but doing it professionally is having a little bit of a thick skin of like, do what you can, do what my job is, and report back. Like, do I feel like I covered that 100%? Do I feel like I covered that area 80% because of the terrain? And so that's where that communication comes in play. And our person who's in charge at the time, the mission coordinator, puts it all together and tries to help solve that puzzle. And everyone's adding little tidbits. But doing enough, to back up with the family, and for you gentlemen, helping with whatever information you can provide. It's very difficult sometimes at the beginning of a search, especially in rescues as well, is you get the initial information. It's like, okay, well, let's go over here. And then you find out more information. Like, well, they probably are not, or possibly not over there at all. Or no, they're terrified of cliffs, so they'll stay away from that area, whatever it may be. As information comes in, it kind of changes the game plan. So that's the hard thing as someone who is reporting their loved one lost, because you're in shock and you're in emotional distress. And so you're trying to provide enough information. And then as time settles in and you're getting more used to that feeling, more things come up that you think weren't helpful, that were like, oh gosh, that really is helpful. And so having multiple information sources can sometimes be helpful, because like we said, your wives maybe be like, I don't know exactly where that is, but maybe their best friend knows them really well and has hiked with them. So if you are that person on the other end, hopefully never this happens to anyone listening, that someone is lost that you care about, who else could be contacted that may have a different perspective of information that could be helpful? I mean, we don't want the whole family of 25 coming in, right, and overwhelming us, but who has a different perspective because they've hiked with that person, they just saw them last week, whatever may be. This is their career of, whatever may be, and so their perspective is going to be thinking differently. And I will tell you, I'm not from law enforcement. That's not my career. I work with kids and do physical therapy, right? But I've learned a lot in 17 years working with law enforcement and having a different mindset. You can watch all the CSI in the world, right? But it's not the same from seeing it on the ground and seeing not only the successes and the happy stories when we bring people back, but seeing the downside too, which, to not lighten this up, but we do see some horrendous things that happen. And you have to deal with that personally as well, right? And so being trained to get that information out of people to make our job better so we don't have to see the negative side. I went there in a roundabout way, but
yeah. We've had a lot of questions come in as you've been talking. A lot of people are really interested about this topic, not only the topic, but what questions about Alpine, and just sort of your general. Tony, you want to take a couple of those that came in?
Yeah, we thinking ORH.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. Ohio Relic Hunter asks, Do you guys do whitewater rescue training as well? We have, we've got some good rivers in Colorado.
Yeah, we do.
Do you have a team that works with you in that capacity?
Our team does not. Alpine Rescue Team does not, but we do work closely with fire departments, sheriff's departments, TDOT. A lot of the fire departments have water specialty teams. What we do is we come in and help on the shore. So we don't get wet. We have helmets, we have throw ropes, we have radios, and we help on the shore, especially downstream as well, to help catch people if things don't go as planned. So we will help and work really well with those other resources. There are search and rescue teams who do specialize in that, but not Alpine Rescue Team.
Yeah.
And Larry had some questions too, Larry Stevens, and we could kind of throw a few of these at her right together here.
Yeah.
All right. What's up, Larry?
Yeah. Do you respond to lost children differently than you respond to lost adults?
Absolutely. And also people with disabilities. So autism is a more well-known diagnosis these days because their brain's going to work a little bit differently. Having a child with autism, their brain works a little bit differently. And how they focus on, talk about hyperfocus, and someone with ADD, right? If they're hyperfocused, like the way they go. So those with certain diagnoses, health conditions, the elderly and the young, those usually prompt a pretty rapid response from us. And we try to get all hands on deck as quickly as possible because time is of the essence, especially with kids, especially with bad weather. We got to find them as quickly as possible. Now, if you're a 35-year-old weekend hiker in good condition, I'm not saying we're going to get stop Starbucks on the way up there, but we're not as concerned. And usually it pulls on our heartstrings a little bit more if it is a child to go out there. On that note too, I will tell you, as you're saying, people are asking about our team as volunteers. There are times where certain volunteers will not respond to a certain mission because it is too close to home. They have a 10-year-old and a 10-year-old's missing, and they're like, can't deal with that. They have a parent in this condition that's too close to home, and we have to protect our psychological well-being as well.
Good. I'm glad they do. Some people would ignore that and then get in more trouble. Larry also asked, how fast is the response time from when 911 receives the call? What's your goal? Is it always different?
The goal is to be as fast as possible for the condition, but there are some calls into 911 where there needs to be some investigation. Like someone's overdue, like I was saying, overdue Mount Beardstat, they're supposed to be back an hour ago. So usually the behind the scenes, and this is just an average, this is not every call, but say Mount Beardstat. A sheriff's deputy from Clear Creek Sheriff's Office will go up, is that vehicle in the parking lot? If it isn't, did they start driving home? Let's give it some time, give it, and do some more research. If it is, then, we kind of say, oh yeah, we see some lights on the hill. We start interviewing people coming off the mountain, like, hey, did you see somebody that matches the description? So there is some information that we gather at first. Depending on the call, we may still be sent out to start responding up that direction, because say Mount Beardstat, gosh, that could be an hour drive, right? How long did it take for you to get to the trailhead? It's going to take us about that amount of time. Even if it's an emergency, we're driving lights and sirens, that doesn't mean we're going to get there 45 minutes faster. It means we're asking, with lights and sirens, we're asking people on I-70 or wherever we may be, please move over so we can go without having to stop. And that's what it means. And not everyone's paying attention. That's one of the most dangerous things we do, is driving lights and sirens on the roads. Please move over so we can go unhindered and get to this emergency as fast as possible. Are we going 100 miles an hour? No, not usually. We just need to get there as fast as possible. So to back up to how we respond, if it's an avalanche, if it's whitewater, a lot of these situations we get from 911, it's go right away, go, and we'll get information as we get there, if that makes any sense. So every situation is a little bit different. We have people on our team, over a dozen people who have been on the team for decades, 20, 30 years. Wow. And a lot of them are our mission coordinators. They're the leaders of their team, and they know these areas. They know these different calls. And the sheriff's departments, we're very fortunate. We're very professional, and they trust our knowledge to do what we do. And we are good at what we do, and we train a lot for it. And we're constantly trying to learn some more.
Sure. Yeah, I think being a deputy, a sheriff's deputy, in a situation like this, I responded to a lot of lost kids, those kind of different things. And, if I have a search and rescue team come in, let them do what they do. They're specialized in that. Let me take a little bit of a back seat and help out where I can. but let them do what they do. You've got the training, you've got the resources. And one thing I did learn this weekend was, my intent while searching was very first responder type.
Yeah.
And who I was teamed up with was slow and deliberate. And he was trying to explain to me how the different responses to the situation work. And I found myself in, with the cop hat on, going, okay, we got to go here. And I'm winded. I'm going up these hills and all that kind of different things. And the search and rescue was like, no, slow down, open things up, get your peripherals out there, and look and slow down and be more deliberate with your approach to what we're here to do, rather than from point A to point B in the fastest time possible, which is how I'm programmed. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's a really good point. Because the people who are watching, and that's something we're always aware of, that the family, the bystanders, they're watching us. And how we come across, I mean, we've probably all heard like, oh, I can't believe they acted this way in some other situation. And you don't know what's going on. So while we may be slowing down and people like, get in the field, get them now. It's like avalanches. We have this a lot. Like, we need to make sure we're safe, right? For search. Exactly. We need to be methodical, not just go out there, scatterbrain. We need to go methodical and find the best known areas for the information we have to get there, right? And we do want to go fast. And in our minds, we're thinking fast. But like you said, sometimes slower is faster because we're being smart about it. The other thing is, bystanders sometimes may see, like, if you've been in law enforcement, joking or being relaxed, and you're like, my loved one is out there. Again, it comes back to remember our position. We're not taking it lightly, but we're nervous, or we've heard or seen some horrible things. And that's how we're trying to let off steam and to not offend anybody. But that's just, what do they call that? Not dark humor, but gallows humor of just like, because it's stressful. I will tell you, looking the other night and searching with another team member, and there is that spectrum when you're on a search to be serious. Like, I'm light and I'm like, let's go. Right. And then there's that switch, right? And when I'm searching, it's like, okay, this is the situation. This person's lost. They don't have their light. They went too far. We're going to find them. All's gonna be great. And then there's the opposite negative outcome that we don't want. And we have to prepare ourselves mentally for this huge spectrum of what we're looking for and what we may come across, and how we're going to mentally deal with that, and also how to mentally and psychologically think about those who are waiting for him at the trailhead. Yeah. And that's not taken lightly. As light as it may seem, me coming across, it's just, it's law enforcement. And what we do is a specialty. So in Colorado, working for the sheriff's department as volunteers, we save a lot of taxpayers' money for sure, because they're not paying deputies to go out there. Like, we are doing that for our community service. And again, it has payback a millionfold because of what we get to do and help people bring their loved ones back, or help somebody who's injured in the backcountry.
I mean, I can attest to the professionalism, the focus, like I said, you guys do what you do, 100%. I was very impressed by everything, how you guys go about it, how you do it, how you take care of business. I'm personally very grateful for your involvement with the situation we had. So I want to thank you guys for sure, and thank all the even the search and rescue from Arapahoe was out there, who are generally teenagers. I love those guys, right? They're amazing. Raising kids, just fantastic people who are doing sometimes a thankless job and a selfless job, and I'm extremely appreciative. And I hope that you guys understand, from the opposite side per se, looking in, just how cherished and valuable you guys are to a lot of different situations.
And I know, Tony, you were instrumental in kind of talking me off the wall too, because I was like, we were struggling with that. We haven't done done enough. Like, we both wanted to come in and put boots on the ground, thinking, being metal detectors ourselves, we had the mindset of knowing probably exactly where he would have gone. And, but it was Tony that kind of said, look, we've done everything we can do. We've offered everything.
And sometimes we will let people go in the field, but sometimes it's distracting more so. But sometimes, especially if it's a multiple day search, there's that feeling that you guys are saying you feel useless, and we will go, hey, there's some situation we'll say, sure, here are some members, let's go in this area. So we don't want them getting injured as well. We don't want you all getting injured, but we know that feeling of like, I'm not doing anything, let's get you out there. So you just feel better for your psychological well-being as well. So we do take that into account as well, because it's a horrible feeling. As a team member, sometimes we don't all go in the field and we just sit there, or we have to wait for hours before our next assignment because of whatever the situation, weather may be.
Yeah.
And it's horrible for us too. Like, we just want to help.
Want to go.
Yeah.
Right. Do what you do. Yeah.
Well, we were thinking of winding down Dawn and trying to, not take up too much of her time, but we've had all these questions come in.
Wow.
Have you seen them, Tony?
I'll do is what I will speak as long as you want. You can tell I'm a talker. So Larry's got more questions. Who else?
He does.
How do you know that?
I don't have my glasses on, but I can see it pop up.
Larry asks.
Yeah. Do you guys use dog teams and to search?
We do, and we did this week. We don't have dog teams currently on our team, but front range rescue dogs and some other search and rescue teams, we will use dogs and call them in, and they are an amazing resource. Avalanche dogs, dogs are trained for different things, search versus like cadaver versus avalanche. Gosh, an avalanche dog, we've done trainings, and in real life, a dog can find a person buried under the snow in like 20 seconds. It's incredible what they can do that we can, and they're just like, just so I can pull on my toys.
So excited.
Right.
And they're just like, it's a game to them. And the trainers that spend so many hours to train them, it's just unspoken like heroism right there. We do use dogs as much as we can. It just has to be the right condition as well. If we've trampled all over an area, we've ruined that scene for a dog.
Yeah, and in that situation, I know the dogs came out early they were there overnight because, like you stated, once all the searchers come in, you've trampled that, you've ruined kind of the scent. So getting the dogs on it before anybody else has gotten out there is probably essential. Yeah.
Let them do what they do. Don't get in their way. Right.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And usually what we'll do is we'll have a team member who are just, we're navigating, because the dog trainer, their handler, their job is to let the dog do their thing. I'm not going to speak because I'm not a dog handler, but they do their thing. And then the rescue member that's with them their job is to make sure they don't get lost. Like, where are we tracking? Because they're so focused on the dog and letting them do, then the rescue member just stands back and follows and makes sure we're on the same course and whatever it may be, and calls things in.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else we got coming?
Let's see. This one I wanted to ask Ohio Relic Hunter again, Bill. Does Alpine Rescue get called for evidence searches?
We do.
Are you guys working with the county sheriffs and things like that for that?
Not as often as you think. Usually there's an individual involved, a person. But we have been called in some bigger issues for evidence search before, because we are trained for line searches and that kind of thing, and how to professionally deal with if we do find evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Ken is a part of our, what is it called? PERT. Physical evidence recovery team. Yeah. So sometimes we get called out to do that for at crime scenes as well. Usually, bullet casings, bank casings, things like that, to locate that, because we got these nice objects that tell you where metal is. So that works out well.
Which is so fun.
Yeah. Thin Blue Digger says, do you think it's smart for everyone that does adventures like us on the outdoors to take a first aid and CPR class?
I think that's very beneficial. Do you cherish your safety? Then yes.
Right.
To learn how and that's your training. Like, if you're a nurse, obviously not, right? But to have a simple first aid kit and know how to use it is beneficial. And to take a first aid or CPR class is helpful. And more times, it's probably not going to be used for you, especially CPR. You're going to be a bystander and a good Samaritan, walk by and see CPR in action and jump in. We have many calls that are people calling in like, hey, this person's complaining of chest pain, like they don't even know them. Or we get called for a rescue, and by the time we get there, the person's at the trailhead because all these good Samaritans helped out, or nurse. So yeah, it's very beneficial because it can help you. And it can also be the difference between calling us or being able to get yourself out and getting to an hospital.
Yeah, very cool. What else we got? There are all kinds of things coming in. How are you up on your sort of field outback treatment of certain things like snake bites and stuff like that? Are you up on all that?
Like medically?
Like what do you do medically for a snake bite?
You know, we haven't, knock on wood, we haven't really had snake bites for our team members before. We're aware of it where we go. Gosh, if you're up in Rocky Mountain Rescue Group up in Boulder, they have to be aware of that all the time with the hot rocks and such. We're aware of it. We deal more probably with mountain lions and things like that we have to watch out for, but we don't have too many occurrences with that. Obviously, that's an emergency. We don't carry anti-venom or anything like that. And so that would be an emergency situation.
Yeah. I think our podcast with Jeff Barber, he addressed snake bites and that kind of stuff. He's down in Alabama.
Oh, yeah. You got a lot of snakes down there.
Yeah, right. He's a doctor down there, and he was good. So if go back and watch that episode if you're listening right now. Go back. Was it last year? I think. Jeff.
We only have 3 venomous snakes in Colorado, so we're not Alabama. I don't know how many they have, but it's more than 3. I'm sure of it.
And I'm posting a link in the chat right now if somebody wants to head over there after this one and go check out the podcast with Jeff. Yeah.
Ken and I did come across a rattlesnake while we were out one time, and I think we dealt with it the absolute best way. So my suggestion would be to scream like a girl and run as fast as you can.
Good answer.
Yep.
The thing is,
no first aid needed.
They're rattling to tell you to go away. They don't want to bite you, and like they're this big. Like you could step on them and break their back, right?
Yeah.
So they're telling you to back off, and you back off, right? Yeah. Don't mess with them.
And Dr. Jeff Barber, I was listening. I went in prep for this podcast, and I went back and listened to his episode, and I wrote some things down that he had said in case we got questions like this. And one of the things he said about snake bites is stay calm, don't freak out. Not only because of the toxins that are in you, but what's going to happen if you freak out? All your friends are going to come over, and generally a venomous snake, when he bites you, will coil up somewhere real near you. They won't scatter off as much. And so your friends come over, and next thing you know, they're going to get bit. So staying calm, moving away from the area, calling your friends
Easier
over.
said than done.
Right.
Yeah, immobilize the area. Right. So much. So hey, you're lost, Don. What's that? You got another one?
Yeah, I was going to do just real quick. How about bear spray?
Yeah.
Is that
it
a good
depends
idea?
on your area. Again, be in your area. Certain parts of Colorado, it could be really helpful, and bear spray, there are people who are like, bear spray, bear bells. It doesn't hurt to have it, right? For a single female, I know that's sometimes it's like mace, right? Like if you're worried. I mean, we had, 2 years ago? We had the gentleman going on Denver mountain parks and just like freaking out women. So it can work for bears and it can work for other people as well. I mean, agreed. I hate to be that blunt, but we do have some people who are not in good intention in the backcountry.
Yeah.
Works for moose. You can use it.
Works for moose too.
Moose, moose are more dangerous in some respects, and they're growing in their population. So in Grand County, which is over by like Winter Park area, their rescue team, they I don't know if it's changed recently with the change in wolves, but they started adding with their safety before they went in the field. Like, what do we have to watch out for? If there's weather, if there's rockfall, and they say moose and wolves. Like, be aware of those situations and what do we do? Yeah. But moose are dangerous too. They're cute and they're huge and they're not eating meat, but they can trample you. So watch out.
They're very protective of their young. I will just say that. I had an experience last year. So.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Man, you just have all sorts of. When are we going to meet you in the backcountry?
That's it.
Good thing.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, I watched this video today. It was pretty cool. It came up just out of nowhere. I think like Facebook is listening to me or something, but have you ever seen it? It's using the shadow method to produce a compass. Have you seen that? Where you put a stick down in the ground and then wherever the shadow is, you put a stone at the top of the shadow and then wait 15 minutes. And wherever the shadow goes, put another stone at the top and that'll be your east-west heading. I thought that was so cool. I'd never heard that before.
Look at you learning
stuff. Look at me learning stuff.
I know, right?
All because of you, because I knew I had you coming on, and I was like,
oh my goodness,
I got to be prepared. So hey, Don, you're lost. Help! I'm lost. Now what?
Okay.
Now what? I know you said hug a tree.
It depends on the situation. Okay, that's not an easy thing to answer. Say we're lost. I'm assuming you're all middle-aged, right? And you're somewhat experienced in life and you're experienced in being in the backcountry, you're lost. What's the weather look like? how lost are you? How prepared are you? What's your situation for safety? Did you tell somebody you're gonna be back in a couple hours and they're gonna be calling it in? Do you have cell reception? Are you hurt? Are you feeling okay? So there's a lot of considerations. I can't answer that directly. First thing you do if you're lost, try to see if you can figure yourself out within limits, right? Don't be walking 8 miles out of the way and, get into the darkness, but like, just do a check, like turn yourself around and see if you can remember. If you have your Gaia out there, were you tracking yourself? Could you hike back the way you came, right? Use the technology if you've got it. And then if it starts getting like, okay, I've done what I think I can do. I really think I'm lost now. That's when you see, hey, can I text or call 911? I will tell you on a side note, again, we have really experienced members on our team who've been around a long time. And there are certain areas when people do call in now because of cell phone coverage and they're lost, they're off the trail. Couple things. We have people who know these trails like the back of their hand. They're like, oh, yep, we know that rock. Okay, they'll be on the phone, like hike down 100 yards, okay, da-da-da. Okay, do you see this? Do you see a mountain? Yeah. Do you see that? Okay, now go here. And then, they're on the trail because they know it so well. And we know where people get lost very commonly. The other thing we can do is if the person's, fine, it's not bad weather, there's no major concerns, and they do have some cell coverage to text, what we'll do is we'll ping their phone. So we can send a link to their phone via text. They click that link and it will show up where they are through GPS. And we can tell them either directions on how to get back to the trail, or we can send a team, maybe a smaller team, a hasty team, up to them to help them walk out. So those are the nice searches of like, hey, you're lost, there's no big situation. So those are the things you can do is try to figure it out yourself within parameters and knowing your situation. Try to get some help. And if you don't have cell, you have no text, you have no cell phone, you have a dead battery, that's when you use your backup, your satellite. And if you don't have that, that's when you have to make a decision. Is the weather coming in? Do you hunker down and your wife is going to call you in an hour and you wait, a couple hours and you listen for, in a couple hours, which is a long time. Do you listen for whistles and do you look for emergency lights through the bushes or things like that? And if it's like, you're staying the night and nothing's happening, then those are the decisions you have to make. Are you going to have hypothermia? Do you need to start walking? I know I said stay put, but then there's also life survival skills too.
Yeah, sure.
So sorry, that's not a really clear answer. And that's where education comes in.
Perfect.
Education, take, if you're in the backcountry, take those first aid classes, take those navigational classes, and be prepared.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. There's not a cookie cutter answer. And I think you've been fantastic covering kind of, a broad topic, try to prepare us as best as possible. And yeah.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it out here. I mean, it's really fun to talk about. Obviously, I love discussing it. And I think it's helpful for people to think of, I didn't think about that, right? Like, I hadn't thought about that, right? Or I don't need to call anyone in. I'm be fine. Like, I'm just going to go down here. I'm just going to go 200 yards. Those are the worst words. I'm just, because that's when we get in trouble. You don't pack anything with you because you're just going to go over there. And that's when we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Don, you've been an amazing guest. A lot packed in there. I love your passion about all this. Like, you speak about it very well. Just a perfect person to have on something like this.
Yeah.
And
anytime.
we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your information with our listening audience. And thank you for your service too, your volunteering service and that spirit. So
amazing. I just want to say, across our country, almost 99.9% of the search and rescue teams who are not part of the national parks or things like that, we're volunteers. So there's no charge. So don't be shy about like how expensive it's going to be. There's no charge for us to come look for you or for us to get you out of the field and get you to your car, to an ambulance, or whatever it may be. So just out there, there's no charge for rescue. A lot of us are nonprofits, just like Alpine Rescue Team. If you're in the Denver area next Thursday, if you like beer in Golden, there's a fundraiser at the Golden Mill at 6 p.m. You can come have some beer and some raffles and support a good cause.
Excellent.
And if you're not in Denver area, wherever you are, look up your search and rescue team and see if you can support them in some way.
Yeah. It's a great
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got to support them, and they're out here supporting us, and
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Normally, Don, we ask you to stay with us until after the end of the show. We're going to keep going. We're going to let you get back on the road
Sure.
because I know you're heading home and stuff. So I wanted to say personally, again, thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for coming on tonight. We've had a lot of great comments of exactly that. Oh, I didn't think about that. So I think you've added a ton of value to a lot of different people. And we truly, truly appreciate your time. So
I appreciate you guys bringing us on. And again, everything you guys helped with a few days ago. So thank you so much. And everybody have a great night. Thank you.
You too.
Great.
Thanks, Don.
Yep.
Bye.
I'll talk to you offline, Don. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Wow.
Woo.
Wow.
It's been a tough one. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we still got time and we're going to stay here because we've got more stuff to talk about. But
yeah,
not going to lie. It's been a tough one. It's been a tough one to talk about. But like I said at the beginning, I think it's needed. I think a lot of people, a lot of positive reinforcement coming from Chad of saying, gosh, yeah, this is great. There's a couple things I wanted to show here real quick. Teresa, treasure hunter. My son is on a rescue team here in Wyoming. He does water rescues, repelling, firefighting. He's seen some very sad things. And some amazing, wonderful outcomes.
Yeah. Sometimes they're good, sometimes not so good, right?
Right.
You pray for the good ones and endure the bad ones. I think I know. I was not aware that Alpine was a volunteer organization. That shocked me right off the beginning, right out of the bat. I thought they were, associated with the Forest Service or something.
Yep. A private organization, completely led by volunteers and
So we were involved. We were involved with Dawn recently, and that's why we wanted to have her on. And we were going to have just a short segment with her to talk about sort of, outback and forests and being lost and being surviving out there and stuff. And we had a lot of other stuff to talk about dangers and safety for general stuff. Sketchy park tweakers, like all kinds of stuff, how to deal with some of that stuff, but she had so much good stuff to offer that I think no matter if you're in a mountainous area or even in like some kind of backcountry area, I know some of the guys we've had on recently, Tony, that go out looking for copper culture and trade stuff. They get out there too. They get out there in the woods and in these woods and, some of the things can apply to them too. I know, some people think, oh, I would never get lost. But if it ever happens to you, it definitely makes you think, wow, I was really close to freaking out and panicking there. And maybe some of the stuff she had to say will help somebody at some point,
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we were going to have her on for a short segment. I told her 15 to 30 minutes and she filled exactly an hour.
Yeah.
But invaluable information from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like I said, like, I have a different mindset going into it, which is completely not how search and rescue works.
Yeah.
That kind of idea. So fantastic guest to have on. I'll definitely go back and watch and pick up even more things. And we keep mentioning the Jeff Barber podcast that we had last year. Gosh, you guys got to go listen to that as well. Incredible detectorist. We both have hunted with Jeff in England. He's a doctor down in Alabama.
Yeah.
And more invaluable information about these types of situations, more from the medical side.
Right. So like, what to look for when somebody's having a stroke, like what does dehydration look like, all kinds of stuff, snake bites, broken bones. Like he goes over all that stuff. It was an amazing podcast filled with all kinds of installation. I just placed the link in the chat. And I implore you all to go over there and check it out. It was really a great podcast. Especially because we're not going to get to some of that stuff.
Right. Before we go though, because we've still got 14 minutes.
Sure.
Tell us the story of England.
Yeah.
That's
so
in our notes. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's an unwritten rule there that I didn't know about actually, and it's probably elsewhere. Everyone in the chat's gonna be like, "You dummy!" Everyone knows that, but I didn't, and I made a mistake.
There's a button on your headphones that you press, and it turns on your headphones.
Not that one. I made that mistake.
Oh, too. Everybody knows this story. Okay,
good legend.
Sorry,
volume control. No, but we're in England. We're with a group of like 14 people. We're out detecting and all stuff. And I mean, we got, 3,000 acres to hunt. So you can really get out there and get away from everyone. At one point, it's like all of us couldn't even see each other. It was like that kind of spread. But, and you're doing all day, 7 days of dark to dark, 10 to 12 hour days detecting, just really rigorous and grueling. So physically you're exhausted. So I was out in the middle of the field and I was texting my wife and she was sending me some text. So I knelt down and I was just like, oh man, it was such a beautiful meadow I was in, and the sky was beautiful. And I was in this English countryside. I mean, just picture it, right? So I lay on my back and take a rest while have the phone up above me, just kind of texting her. Oh, and it felt so good to lay down and take a quick break. Well, all of a sudden, Mike, Preacher Digger on YouTube, Mike comes over and I saw him coming towards me swinging his metal detector. And I'm like, oh, he must be coming over to talk to me. And he comes over and he goes, you all right? And I go, yeah, just taking a break. He goes, you need to put your shovel up and you need to put your detector on your shovel when you're taking a break. That way we don't think you're having a heart attack or that you're in distress somehow. And I was like, oh, yeah. Great idea. Great, unwritten rule. I get it, man. Then I felt terrible because he just walked about a quarter mile away. He didn't want to come over and detect in my area, but he ended up coming, and that's what he did. So if you don't know that unwritten rule and you're out digging with a bunch of people, do that. Tell your friends. That's what we should all do. That way, if somebody's really having an issue. I know Butch Holcomb, they always joke about the fact that he's always laid out in the field. Who else? Jeff Plugmaster Cord, Jeff Lubert. They're always laying on their back, taking a break. Yeah. So yeah, if you don't know that rule, just take it to heart and tell your friends.
Preacher, he didn't end up mining because he found 3 hammered silvers on the way over to you. Didn't matter to him. So that's how he hunts anyways.
Right. Yeah, he thanked me later for that. But yeah, I didn't know, and I felt terrible because I pulled him out of his area. He was digging in and stuff like that. But
Denny the ring finder says I do that at DIV. Yeah, Denny, you put the machine up on your shovel to let everybody know that's the universal sign. Is that what you're saying? You do that at DIV?
Yeah.
Or you lay down and pass out in the field and everybody comes running.
I believe he puts his shovel up in his thing. Yeah. He also said earlier he misses calling in. And you know what, Denny, what you got to do is you got to figure out how to go on your phone on video. Then we could give you the link sometime and you could just pop up here on the screen with us. And come in and ask questions. So you can still somewhat call in, but you need a link. It goes to your browser on your phone, connects to your camera and your mic, and then we can see your beautiful face. How's that? Emily says, Little Dirt Digger says, Mr. Butch took a nap when we went out digging before. Yeah.
Yeah, I took spot up underneath the tree. I mean, up in England, the same thing, you're hunting so long and so hard. It was incredible. I was in a field overlooking this field, beautiful scenery. I sat down underneath the tree, got my sandwich out and just ate there. And so yeah, just put your shovel with your machine up, I guess. That's what I'm taking from this.
Yeah. Yep. Look at
what else have we got?
Yeah, was I looking? Oh, Ohio Relic Hunter, the manatee crawl. I miss those commercials. We ought to bring it back from time to time. Yeah. Another thing we kind of have down on our list is being aware of branches and sort of branches falling from trees. Sometimes we'll take a break underneath the tree or set up some chairs and stuff like that. And I've known people that have said they've had trees come down and limbs fall from heights and close to hitting them. And it's no joke. You got to be definitely cognizant of that too. Yeah, Teresa talked about somebody in her group had a heart attack. When I was going back and looking through the Jeff Barber podcast, he was talking about identifying signs of stroke. And so as a doctor, what he does is if anybody's fearing they're having a stroke, or a friend in their group is having a stroke, he said he always asks the patient to smile at him. And if they can do it symmetrically, that's a good sign.
Sure.
If it's not, that's a cautionary sign. They say open and close your eyes at the same time. No slurred speech, lift each leg and arm, one at a time. Make sure they got good grip, grip strength.
Right.
Make sure their speech to you isn't jumbled or slurred. And any signs like those that are going against those signs need to get to an ER right away. So if you notice that their smile is unsymmetrical, or and they can't seem to close their eyes at the same time, one staying open and stuff, those are good signs. Yeah.
I think probably maybe the biggest thing that we all need to be conscious of, dehydration.
Yes.
I mean, I'm 100% guilty of it. I go. I was hunting out with our buddy Jeff probably about a month ago, and we left our cars. We walked up a little to a site, and he's like, "You got any water with you?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine." Thinking I'd just be out there a couple hours, and man, I got thirsty. Stay hydrated. You start seeing stars. You feel lightheaded.
Tingling all over your skin sometimes.
Yeah, all of those things. Yeah.
I used to practice martial arts a lot for 20 something years. And I remember my teacher, when we would practice outdoors sometime, he was always on me to drink more water. And he said, in this heat, if you're sweating, if your palms aren't sweating, you're not drinking enough. So if you're sweating, but your palms are dry, you need to drink more water. So that's the tip he always gave me. And I thought, why would my hands sweat? He goes, you're not drinking enough water. Your hands need to be sweating like the rest of you, So yeah, we talked about stroke and snake bites and stuff. So we did get some of those things in. I know that fatigue is a big issue. I know a lot of people, sometimes their diabetes, if they have diabetes, will get, further degraded by fatigue. We have issues like repetitive motion issues because we're just doing the same movement. You have overexertion that makes you use more blood sugar. So sometimes being prepared. Here's another great tip. If you're diabetic, or if you have any kind of seizure, medical conditions, or any kind of medical conditions, make sure your digging partners know that, right? I've got this thing with my face, right? This trigeminal neuralgia. I think I've told everyone in my digging group, hey, here's this thing I got. It's not life-threatening. It's going to look like crap when it happens. You're going to get very concerned if an attack hits me, but don't worry about it, right? I want everyone to know that, because if it happened, everyone would get really freaked out. And it's really just, it's not a serious sort of life-threatening condition. But diabetes, anything like that, pacemaker, anything that could possibly go wrong, don't be too proud to tell your digging partners or the people in your group about it, because they need to look out for you, and put your shovel up.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, through this whole hour and a half we've been here, we've talked about essentially a situation to where a single solo hunter, whether that's a big game hunter, metal detectorist, hiker, a single person by themselves is out in the middle of nowhere. I think this all just reinforces we need to go out together. we need to spend and enjoy this hobby more together as friends, and share that together with everybody. That's something that we talk about every single time that we're on the podcast. Share this with somebody else, and it does lend to then more safety.
It does. And BC Trails brings up a great point too. If you have any kind of allergies to bee stings or anything like, anything that could bite you that you have some kind of allergy for, make sure that you let people know it. Maybe you have an EpiPen in your bag. Make sure they know that. Make sure you maybe teach them how to use it if something were to happen to you. I mean, how many times have we heard stories of people running their detector and bumping a yellow jacket nest or some kind of, you know what I mean? Sure. Some kind of, even like fire ants, fire ants are a big thing in some parts of the country. I know I've had a run in with them, and some people can get like trouble breathing and fast heartbeats, blisters and all kinds of
Cheers.
stuff. So EpiPens are great to carry for that kind of stuff for sure. Yeah, Teresa said, she said that being a woman detectorist, a few times she's had the scare of somebody walking up behind her, and she doesn't hear him because she's got her headphones on and she's
Right.
hyper focused. And
Hyper-focused.
that awareness is hard for us to do as detectors for that exact reason. We have our head down, you know, especially if you're a park hunter and you're in a park, and sometimes you get these shady characters that, you know, want to come over and see what you're doing, and you kind of get this weird feeling, or maybe you just don't even notice them, and all of a sudden they're there right behind you. Not fun. I know I had that experience with a police officer one time where, you know, they were right on my back, and I turned around. I got so shocked, you know. I'm glad I wasn't using a black pinpointer.
Yeah.
Looked like the
they
barrel
don't
of a
make those.
gun.
They make them different colors now. No, I'm curious. Anybody who's still here in the live chat, who actually carries a concealed carry with them when they're out? I do. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just
I'm just
rely on
curious.
Tony to defend me.
I got 3 of them. Don't worry. I got enough for all my partners with me. Here, I'm just throwing them at them.
Index, one on 2 shoulders, one on his ankle. He's good to go. Well, hey man, this was a good show. This was a really good show. I think that you know, there could have been a million other things we could have talked about for sure. And maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll have another one of these shows, and maybe we'll have Jeff Barber back on, or maybe we'll have,
there we go.
Yeah, maybe we'll have her back on. That was a lot of fun, man. She was great.
She was great. Absolutely incredible amount of knowledge and passion, right? I mean, talk about somebody who enjoys something that she volunteers at. Like, amazing.
You know, she's done for so many years, you know. Buckle Boy earlier had some items he wanted us to kind of talk about, some safety issues, like bending over and not being able to get up. You know, he wanted to know what you do about that. And
use my shovel.
What happens when you have a heart attack from seeing gold in the hole? Like, how do you survive that one?
We have 2 people right here that have survived that incident right there.
True.
The heart attack.
Yeah. What are you supposed to do when you're murdered by the family for spending too much time detecting?
Not much you can do with that.
Not much you can do. Pray, I think. Pray and ask for forgiveness.
Always ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. Great show. Thanks again to our sponsor for today's show, Nick's Custom Laser Engraving. Head on over there. We've got his link right below in the description of these live streams. You can head on over there and check out Nick's Custom Engraving. He made these great hats for us. He does all kinds of engraving.
All personalized.
Encourage you to go over and give him a look.
Love it.
Wear gloves, drink water. If you wear knee pads, don't fall down to your knees. You can blow them out that way. I know I used to do that. It's very tough for me to place my knee because of the weight I had at the time. And, you know, you just got to find the way of doing your thing. Some people bend over. Some people go down to 1 knee. Some people go down to 2 knees. You got to protect those knees, man. Protect that back.
Yeah.
Those are the things that go quickly.
Another great tip, don't eat yellow snow.
That one came in. That's great. Don't spit in the wind. That one, that one is another great tip.
Oh, man. Great show. Great time. Well needed.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody picked up one thing from it. That's all I want, for sure. So
perfect, man. Well, let's get out of here. Thanks everyone for joining us in the chat. That was a lot of fun. Looking forward to our next show next week. Got a great show planned next Thursday. Make sure you join us for that. Actually, next Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we're on next Wednesday.
We're on next Wednesday. Special night next Wednesday.
Yeah.
So that should be a lot of fun. Join us Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for our next show. We'll put that out to remind everyone of the new night just next week. So it should be great.
Yeah, it'll be a good show. Good show.
Just remember, don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger and don't mess around with Jim. Just, it shows my age a little bit, but you don't want to do those things either. Big old Jim.
Okay.
All right, man. Let's get out of here. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening to Relics Radio. We will see you back here next week for another exciting guest. Until then, get out and dig it all.